All right, everybody, hello and welcome to mock interview number 131, featuring a sales development rep and somebody who's also transitioning from an education career. My name is Albert. I'm the founder of Albert's List, and I'll be your co-host today. We're a company focused on helping you gain AI, side hustle, and job search skills so that you can be the most indispensable professional no matter what you're looking for. And so we're back here with our mock interview program, and with me, as always, is my trusty partner, Corey of CareerShakers.com. He's here for the 100th and probably like 15th time, and he's done a lot of mock interviews, so he knows exactly what to look for. And so the way that this works is that Karen has picked a job description, she sent her resume, and Corey will ask questions, and Karen will answer, and then feedback will be given. For those of you who are watching in the attendees aisle, feel free to give any of your feedback, ask questions yourself, or ask questions in general about interviews. Without further ado, Corey, over to you.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. And today you're in for a bit of a treat. We're going to be practicing a account executive based on how the job description is worded, which I'll put up on the screen in a second. It's a full cycle role. So I think their official job title is account executive, but if
Yeah.
I'm reading and interpreting the job description, I would say it's more full cycle sales, closer to like sales development representative, business development representative. It's more like a full sales role as
Yeah.
opposed to pure account executive, and it's going to be for a company called Stepful. Um, and that's what we're going to be practicing today. But you're also in for a little bit of a treat because we're going to be practicing it as a bit of a career switch. So Karen here is currently working part-time as a public school teacher, but also has done some entrepreneurial ventures before that in her career as well. So we'll also point out some ways where you can talk about your transferable skills if you are looking to break into sales and moving into this type of career, which we've also done a few webinars on about as well. And then if anyone is curious in terms of like what are the different types of sales positions and how you can get into that, I actually did create a YouTube video that breaks down all the different roles like account executive, s- uh, uh, cu customer success, BDR, etc. So I'll put that in the chat as well. But before we begin, we always like to give our brave volunteers, firstly, a round of applause. So thank you, Karen, for volunteering for everyone's education and entertainment purposes. And then we also want to give you a platform just to kind of introduce yourself to everybody in a non-interview setting, and then talk about the types of companies, roles, maybe even locations as to where you'd be interested in finding a job. And that way, if anyone watching this recording or watching this live has any recommendations for you or has any connections in their network, they can point them out. So
Okay.
f
Good.
feel free to take the floor.
All right. My name is Karen Smith, and I am in Boston, and I pretty much lived in Boston my whole life, or in Massachusetts. And I have done many things, and I also have now a daughter who's going to college. My and I live in like a small suburb west of Boston. So other than that, I enjoy all sorts of other things, hobbies and whatnot. But for the most part, I'm located in the Boston area, and I can do remote work, and I can travel as much as a company may need me to travel because it is going to be a completely empty nest scenario for me. So I won't be cooking dinner for my child or driving anything. None of the things that I decided to wait to do to go into sales. So now is in the perfect spot to go back into it.
Okay. And then, so you're looking for sales roles. Are there any other types of roles besides sales that you're looking for?
I can also do curriculum development for ed tech and take a look at it, create it, just see if it's going to be relevant and if it will stay relevant for a little bit, a little while. And I can also do that as well.
All right. And then for sales roles, are there particular types of companies or industries that you ideally want to work for or work on?
Ideally, ed tech, because my background is education. I I know how teachers think. I was a teacher, and the technology they are teachers think a certain way. Ed tech, there's a huge future in education. So I want to work with educators. My interest is in the secondary education market, uh, but it's also, I can do middle and elementary, like K-12 as well. But I'm also your company, Upstep, is intriguing to me because you are working with adult learners and who need support in the healthcare fields, and you're working with all sorts of hospitals and hospital settings, things like that. The account. So that is also of interest, and it came to my mind as I was searching for the type of company I'd like to work at. I I also look at a little bit at the culture of the company and read more about them. And it seems that they all say great things about working at their company. So those sorts of things are what I'm looking for.
Excellent.
Um,
Fantastic. So if anyone has any leads or anyone in their network that could be beneficial for Karen, please reach out. And for those of you watching this for the first time, we're going to do this as a mock interview session. So feel free to look at your notes, reference any documents you may have, because this is all practice. So we can help
mhm.
you refine those stories. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're not focusing too much on like body language or anything like that. We're just focusing more on the content and the words that you're saying. And then
Okay.
and then how we typically do it is I'll ask an interview question, and then I usually won't give you any hints or like jump in or anything like that because I want you to treat it like a real interview. And then after each question, I'll give some feedback on areas of improvement as well as things that Karen did very well. And then that way, for those of you who are doing a career switch or just trying to get a job in sales, I can point out some key things that you can take forward in your interviews as you're practicing on your own. And again, if you do want to volunteer for this, me and Albert have open spots in the upcoming weeks, and we're very nice. And this is only going to help you as you get more interview opportunities this year in a super competitive job market. Now, before we actually dive into the interview, I wanted to go through some general tips and tricks when you are looking to break into sales, whether you have experience or no experience. So, if you're looking to transition into a career in sales, usually the entry level roles are what people call like business development representative or sales development representative, SDR, BDR is typically what they're called. Some companies call them like outbound sales folks. But when you're looking to transition into this, the main thing that hiring managers and recruiters look for is that you have customer service experience and or sales experience. So you can get that working in the retail sector. You can work that in any customer service job, right? Fast food. You can even get that doing your own entrepreneurial stuff. So maybe you were part of like a MLM multi-level marketing campaign. So like Amway, Melaleuca, stuff like that. And maybe some of you have some real estate experience if you were a realtor or you worked in car sales, right? Any transferable sales skills are usually what they're looking for. So make sure you highlight those on your resume. And then if you are doing this type of career switch, whenever you're talking about your sales experience, you just want to talk about any time you've interacted with customers, clients, or in her case, like parents or students. If you are a teacher specifically trying to transition into sales. And then I always recommend that you try to transition into the same industry that you're currently working on, even if you're doing a career switch. So Karen's doing a very intelligent job here by focusing on ed tech, right? Or any other type of education focused company. When you're trying to break into sales and do a career switch, you'll have a much higher chance if you can actually leverage your previous industry experience in their industry, even if you may not have direct sales experience. So it's always hard to go from like, education to like pure tech or, pharmaceutical or something like that. So try to stay within your current industry and then move into that sales vertical. And then once you get the sales experience, then you can move into other industries. Okay, so Karen, are you ready to get started?
I am.
Cool. And then for those of you following along, I'll be flipping back and forth between her resume and the job description because we do create custom questions for every single person whenever you come on here. Question number one. So, Karen, can you tell me about your sales experience?
I can. I have had a variety of roles, and as you stated, start with something that you can test. So I started out as a teacher and then decided that I wanted to do more with people my age. And then so I moved closer to the city, and taught again. And then like a few years later, decided to go into sales when I figured out that my personality was there are many, many online tools to use now. I read a book called What Color is Your Parachute? It leaned to sales heavily. So I decided not to go corporate right away or try to. I sold cars and then I sold cosmetics. And when I sold those cars, they were recognizing me for bringing in more cars than everybody else, selling more cars because of my ability to form relationships with people and make them comfortable and not let them leave. We weren't supposed to let people leave. So, um, so that, so then after that, I found a job related to teachers at Pearson. And that was my my corporate job until 2006 when I had my daughter and decided that I wanted to stay home with her and be a stay-at-home mother for a while. So my sales experience with Pearson was very successful. I surprised myself, and anyone looking to hire a top performer who stays on top of things and can make phone calls and doesn't doesn't mind when people tell that person, well, we don't know, it's too expensive, we're thinking about it. There are some classic excuses. I don't let go at that point. I continue those relationships. And I know by the end of that sales cycle, I know so much my about the people I'm selling to and who they are. And I know which ones will like me and count on me. And those are the ones that usually tend to be they were the bigger orders. Um, when I started there, I was inside sales. And inside sales is in most companies, an inside rep is where you begin, and then they send you to the field. Pearson had the same structure for the inside sales reps that they did for the outside sales reps. So I was paid the same, bonus the same hours, but no travel, except that the field reps had 10 schools to cover in a given state that they were in. I had started with 350 schools. So I had professors at 350 colleges that I was calling on, and these accounts were small, very small, but they were adding up. And I just kept calling and calling, and um, I don't mind being on the phone one bit and talking to them. And they started to build up. And the expected phone call amount per day was about 120 phone calls, outbound dials a day. So I did those outbound dials. And whenever they said, this is how you succeed, I did listen. So eventually, once once I got there, every year I did um, end up being part of the top team. And then by the end of my third year, when I was eligible, they did start giving me that Chairman's Club Award. And that comes with a trip somewhere. And I won that 4 years straight. And then I left to have my daughter. So it was excellent. And the I'm someone who's incentivized by pay and success. So that gives you the history of my sales experience, kind of in a nutshell, and how I feel about sales. And it's probably one of the more fundamental parts of a corporation, because once you see these people working hard to develop, you are there to make sure the hard work they did is used by someone and purchased by someone. And the point person. I know nowadays, when I was with Pearson, we had a full customer service team. If I needed to ship something, they were there. Now it is it is on all the sales reps to do that. When I was there, I also did technology. We did well because we offered already in 2000, we offered online tutorials called Math Excel and iExcel. And then we expanded into my biology lab, my chemistry lab. Those were the very first technological products that we were offering. And we would go to the professors who would say, I just want a book. And we'd say, this is packaged with a book. It's free with the book. Um, that would get them to need to buy a package. The students would buy a package, therefore, instead of just a book, which meant new books. That's how it was done. So I would call them and set up a time, and I would connect my computer to theirs, which was not as easy as or efficient as Zoom.
I'm going to interject, Karen. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I think a lot of the stuff you covered is really great information. We just
Yeah.
need to condense it down.
Dense it. All right.
Yeah.
So that's it
So
in a nutshell.
okay.
Okay, condense.
Yeah. So for the tell me about your sales experience, tell me about your experience in general, you ideally want your answer to be somewhere between like a minute and a half to
Okay.
like two and a
Yep.
half minutes, right? And you focused a lot on your previous experience all the way from 2000 to 2006, right? I
Yeah.
also noticed that how you wrote your resume, right?
Yeah.
You also had some sales experiences, kind of what it looks like
Okay.
2014,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
2016,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and then
Yep.
2021 you did some stuff. And then
Yeah.
as a owner of your own business, I mean,
Yeah.
naturally you have sales and customer
Yes.
service experience
Yep.
there as well. So make sure you're able to talk about not only some of your direct experience, which was a while
Yeah.
ago, but
Yeah.
also your more recent experience, which is
Okay.
also still relevant, right?
It
And
is.
connect those
Yeah.
dots for me. So if we're
Okay.
thinking about how to condense it down, so you could talk about how, yeah, so actually I do have a plethora of sales experience prior to my recent
Mm-hmm.
experience as a teacher, which I've been doing part-time while I was waiting for my daughter to graduate and go to college. Now that she's about to go to college, I'm so proud of her, but I'm really, really excited. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look back prior in my career, when I first started off at Pearson Education from 2000 to 2006, I was one of Pearson's top inside sales reps. I had, I used to do over 120 cold calls a day. I'm very comfortable doing cold calls. I was the four-time Chairman Club Award winner, which is only given out to the top sales reps at that company. So I have a lot of direct experience until then. And then I took a career break to raise my daughter. After
Mm-hmm.
that, I then started working part-time at whatever, right?
Yeah.
At Helmskin Briscoe as a global account manager. I sold or managed, hotel accounts
Mm-hmm.
values up to X, Y, and Z, right? My average quota was blah, blah, blah. I exceeded my quota, blah, 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 right? After that, I went back to Pearson as a outside sales rep or whatever, right? And then I focused mostly on the higher education territories.
Mm-hmm.
My book of business was X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay. Yep.
So that way, and then you're only pulling out the really important stuff and stuff
Yeah.
that either may not be on the resume or stuff that's super impressive, right? So obviously the chairman's club, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
exceeding quotas, or the number of cold calls you've
Right.
done compared to everybody else, right? And then if possible, try not to talk about stuff that's already on the resume.
Yeah.
So that's how I would go about framing this. And then for
Yeah.
those folks who are doing a pure career transition, and maybe you don't have the direct sales experience like Karen, instead you want to talk here about any of the customer service experience you've done, or if you're a teacher, right, how, you maybe have to deal with parents or students on a daily basis, how you're able to diffuse tricky situations, etc. So
So
with the
is
pure
this
career transitions, that's what I would focus on. Go ahead,
so
Karen.
is this a so that is this a tell me about yourself in sales and also a walkthrough of the resume, or will that be an additional question?
It's usually the same question together.
Same, okay, all right. Oh, yeah. So I see why. Okay, I see that approach to take. Okay, great.
Yep. And then if anyone has questions for me or for Karen, or you want us to practice some questions through those in the chat as well. Let's see. Someone said, I heard a good strategy. Tell me about yourself, 90 seconds, then preemptively 30 seconds. Why are
Mhm,
you interested in sales that disrupt the flow? Say something like, there are three particular reasons I am interested in this company. Would you be interested in hearing them?
mhm.
I think it's best to focus on the question that's asked. Try not to change the question if possible. So That's my recommendation there. Okay, next question. Let's see. So, Karen, can you tell me about a very difficult close that you had with one of your customers or clients?
A very difficult close. I had a community college that had, for me, for us, 250 books was a big section of business for us. Whereas in the field, it would be 2,500 books, but 250 was a significant amount towards our base. And I had one particular community college where they worked on a committee, and the professors loved the book, loved the technology. The department chair wanted to stay with the same book for the whole department, and it was very hard because the department chair was the one that ultimately was able to be the one giving the information to the bookstore and deciding, even with feedback. And it was a small department. So I approached it with simply consultative. Yeah, I got to know them better, and I wanted to find out why there was some hesitancy towards using Pearson product. And I did find out because the department chair loved the sales rep for that product. So so I found out a little bit more, and I decided the best thing, keep calling on them, keep talking to her, keep working on it. You know, it's early in the process. So I would call her and I would listen to challenges about her job as a professor and teaching. And out of those challenges about her job came some small challenges that the product I sold would help her solve and save her some time. And so I kept calling and saying hello because it's really important. You can't walk away from someone. You need to really be someone they remember. Even if they don't use your product, they might someday. Then you want to be remembered. So I just kept coming in, and of course I brought them some treats. And ultimately, I did finally have a conversation with her. She wasn't having the best day. And well, first we spoke about not having a good day. And then I just had showed her, I said, you know what? I just want to tell you one more time. I know you don't want to switch, and I know you really have been working with this other rep for years, but let me show you one more time. Ultimately, they switched. It was hard for her because it's always hard to say no to someone that you do like and that you have been using for years with their product. But ultimately, it worked out for her. And I just kept going. So that was one of my toughest scenarios at Pearson. And I would run into things like that, but not quite as stubborn and difficult. So that was the toughest one that I remember.
And then what did you do specifically in terms of like sales techniques in order to help you close this sale? Because it sounds like they're they were very loyal based on their
Mhm.
relationship. So how did you overcome that?
I just I kept asking questions. The other professors were there were a few there's one or two adjuncts, one full professor in the department chair. I simply kept kept calling and inquiring, asking questions, checking in. A sales technique to close was forming that relationship and speaking to them. If you can read a book about it, you can take a class on it, but ultimately it's human speaking to human and getting information out of them and solving problems that they have. And so the technique I had was find the problem, solve the problem, make sure they know that I will be there as they begin to use my product and respond to them appropriately. So those were the techniques.
Okay, very good. Very good. All right, awesome. This is a very good story. I think the selection here is perfect. When it comes to the narration of it, I think it's good to focus on the friction, right?
Yes.
And the reason
Mhm.
as to why they were so difficult and why it was
Yes.
so hard to close. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to the solution, I guess, that you come
Hmm.
up with,
Yes.
focus also on I think here the biggest thing, if I had to assume, was actually
Hmm.
just the product differentiation, because it seems like the
Hmm.
company that they were already using is not
Hmm.
actually better in terms of
Yeah.
solving the business's problems or the
Right.
school's problems or the department's problems, but the professor had a strong relationship with the sales rep, and that's why they were hesitant to change. So by doing the discovery process, you were able to not only you not only worked with the department head who gets to make the decisions and has the budget, but you also talk to the other adjunct professors in order to gather data
Yeah.
to better understand and diagnose the problem that the department has. And then the problem actually could have been solved better with your solution, but the hesitancy was breaking the relationship with the previous sales rep, even though your product was far superior. So by leaning on your product's features and also providing that customer service and I guess onboarding guarantee that
Hmm.
they would be you would assist with the transition, that's how you were actually able to overcome this really strong relationship by selling the product benefits. And so here, I would say one of your greatest strengths that you can point out is that you truly do understand and master the product that you're selling,
Yeah.
because that product knowledge is what's going to help you overcome strong relationships if you can better solve the business's problems,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Okay. Well,
Yeah. So that's like I guess that's like the more businessy way to kind of explain what you did.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
what you said is perfect. It's
Yeah.
just using more business terminology
Hmm.
when you're making
Hmm.
this career switch is only going to help you.
Yep. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. But that's a super good example.
Thank you.
All right. Let me know when you're done taking notes, and then
Okay.
we can go to the next one.
Great. I'm done with that. Taking that note.
Okay. Um, can you tell me about a time when you had to work with a very rude or difficult customer?
Well, there was when I was my very first, well, first of all, I taught high school last year, so I had part-time 30 rude customers every day. That's high school. But professionally, as a rep, my second week at Pearson, this was also a very large textbook scenario adoption of our book. It was a bigger school, one of my bigger ones, and a priority. And I went into my CRM. It said, "She's this woman is nasty. Don't even call her." So I was like, I gotta call her. This is big. I called her and I said, at the time, we were not Pearson. We were Addison Wesley Benjamin Cummings. I said, "This is Karen. I'm calling. I'm your new rep. How are you?" Don't. You're from that horrible company. I don't have time to talk to you. And I said, "Well, what's going on?" "I don't like Addison Wesley." "Oh, all right. Well, listen, can I talk to you at a better time? And how are you?" I'm not, what happened? What happened? Why not? So during that call, it was quick. She didn't want to tell me why she didn't like us or what happened. So I thought, well, something must have happened. But I'm looking in the notes and the rep is just saying unhappy, and that happens. So then I thought about it and I thought, like I always do, well, she was not the only decision maker as the department chair. The other professors were stakeholders. And so I called her colleague, who was her complete opposite and just lovely and so nice. "Oh my goodness, how are y'all?" Because this was the Southern Territory. I said, I spoke with your colleague and how are you? And, "Oh, she is just horrible. She's not nice. She's not happy." And that is where I did not say anything about her. I just said, "Oh, okay. We don't like her," they said. I wasn't going to get into any of that. I just said, well, and I told them the reason for my call. And we just began to talk. And again, it was a little more of a conversation about everything and being a professor, what they need in the book, why she thought her current book was not that great. And in the end, they took all of our book. They ordered everything. They ordered every year from me. They were repeat customers. She didn't, it was again, it was all about getting to know her, and her and department chair was took a different role. She was more consultative. Instead, she took an advisory role and didn't really talk too much. But that's where how I handled it. If you look, if you've got to always dig a little deeper when people have the when you're just on the phone with somebody and you know they need books or the product you have, they need it. Uh, you've got to dig a little deeper and talk to more than one person and more than definitely more than one time. So once I did that again and I dug in and I said, got to know her, it was a much easier scenario. And every year they took our books. And also there is that disclaimer. I was selling something called Campbell Biology, and that book was at the time amazing. More of our doctors were trained on that book as college students than I can even say. So that also was to my advantage. Our greatest competitor was Benjamin Cummings until we bought them. So this is how I go about doing things. I do a lot of probing and I just find out what the problem is. And in this case, this seemed to be more, some of these problems between deciding with what book to use were interpersonal. It wasn't budgetary. All the books were expensive. It was like, I don't like her, so I don't want the book she wants. And so once I got through that, I got them the product they needed and loved, and they kept it. And they were a top client of ours in my territory.
Okay. Okay, great. I think this is a very good story, but I think it should be for a different question.
A different
Um,
question? Okay.
the reason is, so the question was, tell me about a time you had to work with a very difficult or rude customer.
Oh,
So
okay.
the skill that we're trying to assess here is basically like customer service, client management, right?
Oh, okay.
And so if I'm
Okay.
paraphrasing, your
Yeah.
solution of working with a very difficult customer was to
Yeah.
not work with them at all and to work with a different professor, right?
Hmm.
So it's a good story because this was like an untouched, huge account that no one could ever close, but Karen
Yeah.
did it and it was a big success for the company. But
Right.
if we're focusing on the customer service
Yep.
experience,
Hmm.
right, this is not
Okay.
the best story for that because
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh, if Karen runs into a difficult customer, she'll just like not call them again and call someone else, right?
All right.
So I think if you can, try to
Yep.
think of another story. And also I would say try to focus on something more recent. You don't want all of your stories to be from,
Okay.
20 years ago. Because you have done other sales roles and you've also owned your own business. So I'm sure even, as when you were doing FOMO
Well,
flowers, you
yeah.
must have had some rude customers as well, right? So, if possible, try to balance like the the
Sure.
recency.
So, I, I think I put it in there before I started Foma Flowers. I was at Whole Foods in their floral department for an entire year, and that was the general public. And we had a customer who came in weekly, and she was very finicky, quite well to do, very finicky about all of her flowers. And um, you didn't make this arrangement the right way. And so to solve this problem, because she was doing this to all of us and it was happening every week, obvious unhappy people have many reasons. It's not you necessarily you. I didn't take it personally that she was unhappy. I smiled. And I said, it's my goal to do it perfectly for you. I, I don't want this leaving less than perfect. I want you to leave happy and come back. Tell me what in particular you haven't liked or don't like. And I was listening and listening to her. She was tough. And ultimately, I found out all sorts of things. She didn't If she said small, she wanted something very small. If she said big, she wanted something very large. There was no medium, and she hated the color yellow. Yet yellow, she would pick the color yellow. So I couldn't just say, you know, you're picking out yellow flowers yourself and you don't like yellow. I didn't say that. I just pointed her to better flowers and better solutions and better color combinations because she didn't really, I don't think she really knew what she liked, to be honest. So I was presenting her with different options and different sizes so that she would really figure it out as I showed her. And ultimately, it became a much more pleasant experience for all of us there. She realized that I was listening. We were all listening and felt more validated about how she needed more help. Like no more yellow flowers. So that's how it was. I went and made her feel validated about her feelings. I said a lot of people don't like yellow flowers. Some love them, but a lot of people don't care for them. And we just went into more of an in-depth conversation. And flowers are a lower price point thing, but they matter a lot to people. People can be very particular. So that is how I solved it. I just listened and presented her with different options. And ultimately, I love that one. Yeah.
Great, great. Okay. And then if you wanted to translate that into more like businessy, you could say that you used a more educational and consultative approach,
Okay.
because this is one of those customers who was upset even but they were upset,
Yeah.
but it was because they were making uneducated or uninformed decisions that was
Okay.
actually hurting their own customer experience. It had nothing to do with our team or the
Yeah.
product. So in
Okay.
this case, by providing a consultative approach, not being defensive or arguing with them, but trying to provide other solutions which would help them solve their problems, which
Mhm.
they were creating on their own. But
Yeah.
by doing that, they actually became a very happy customer, and she was a loyal customer because you mentioned she comes in every week to buy
Yep.
flowers.
Yep.
So it's like as if you had one of your, most frequent or top customers who is kind of inflicting pain on themselves. You do want to take this kind of approach because it's
Right.
beneficial for the business, and then of course it's better for your team if they're more pleasant to work with. So.
It really is.
Yeah. So whenever you tell your stories, try and translate it a little bit into like
Okay.
business
Mhm.
terminology if
Mhm.
you can at the end.
Okay.
Kind
Sure.
of like that, right?
Okay.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Let's do a hypothetical one here. So, Karen, imagine, we hired you here at Step Full, and let me present this job description. You would be supporting our healthcare vertical. So imagine you were hired here and we needed you to build a list of prospective customers or clients, new customers or clients, for you to go out and cold call and engage to become customers. How would you go about building this customer list?
Oh, I think that LinkedIn is a valuable tool. I would find every single healthcare provider from urgent care to large hospitals to community hospitals to VA hospitals. Find them, enter, find out who the decision makers are for this curriculum. Usually there's a director of curriculum at each hospital. I would find the director of learning. And at that point, all of that would be going into my CRM with phone numbers, contact information, and that would begin the very long, very intensive prospecting process. And at which point, I would make sure that I didn't miss anything. I would also find out if there's anybody I know at that particular medical center. My father is a doctor, and so he knows. I mean, he was also a hospital administrator for a long time, and he knows a lot of people in that industry. My aunt was an X-ray tech, so I would use some of my connections as well because it always helps to know, oh, you know the same person I do. You must be a decent human being. So, and then that would create the shell of my territory. And of course, I would work with my manager and to figure out which one they want to target, which approach should I take? Should I start with the smaller first, the larger first? Create a system. Who am I going to go? And then that's it. You create it that way, And then you start with the visits and the phone calls and the emails and the letters and the marketing, all of those things that matter when you're beginning this whole process of them. And also, I would want every single one of them to have heard my name and my voice and know who I am. Oh, I think I know who she is because I've heard her before leaving me messages. I do realize that smartphones can block phone numbers, but I know also when I need a product and someone calls me, I don't block the number because I may want to call it back someday. I if it's only if it's too much, too soon, or all the time. So I nuance it a little, but that's how I would go about beginning to build out a territory and a shell. And
And then, so besides focusing based on
yeah,
dollar value, obviously, how would
right.
you prioritize this brand new list of customers, and how would you choose who you would want to go after first?
Oh, I would prioritize it by product and use. Is it a strong competitor, a weak competitor? Where's that low hanging fruit? That's a different way to prioritize it. Which ones might be the ones we can get right away, and we can
And
start
and
from
and how
there.
would you identify that?
You ask the questions. You ask a question, and if you can't find out from the head of education, you ask someone else at that hospital. Well, how are you currently um, providing education to your medical assistants? And then you find out who it is that they're using and put it in, and um, just a lot. So that's another way to prioritize it, you know, based on um, what they're using. Because sometimes there's a product that's absolutely incredible and it takes a little longer to develop the exact strategy you'll use to gain that business.
But that would require you to call all of these prospects. So how would you make a prioritization list before calling or speaking to them?
Was it based the priority? Well, it depends if they want, which one would they want me to call first? Do they want, I would make if it's financial based, who are the top dollars? I would call them all and visit, if it's in person, make a visit to all of them. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of activity to get to these people, talk to them, but I would do it that way. It's in a CRM too. I would run analysis and I would prioritize it daily, weekly, and monthly. So what is my goal? What goal do we have? Where's our target for this month? What medical centers are most important? Monthly, weekly. How many of these do I need to get to? And what do I bring to them? And daily. Okay, daily task. I divided up the weekly task into this is the teacher in me, a daily task and get that done. So that's how it's prioritized. And generally speaking, when entering for sales, they'll say there is absolutely a priority list for them. They'll say, they'll tell you, we've been working on this forever, and what can you do for us? What can you bring? Who can you we need fresh or idea. So that's how I would prioritize.
Okay, got it. All right. There were a lot of really great ideas in there. I think for
Mhm.
these hypothetical questions, it's always really tricky because
Yeah.
there's no like there's so many ways you can answer this. There's so many different routes you can take. There's so many
Yep.
different solutions you can provide, right? So I think here, if possible, try to give yourself some kind of framework in order
Okay.
to work around. So you can say, all right, so you're asking me if I'm brand new
Uh-huh.
here and I need
Okay.
to develop a list of brand new prospects. So these are
Okay.
folks that are not already
Mhm.
in our CRM system
Okay. Yep.
because I'm brand new here and I need to, I'm targeting brand new
Mhm.
whatever hospitals
Mhm.
in my territory. How would I go about doing this? Well, first, obviously, I think when it comes to methodology, there's LinkedIn Navigator and other tools where you can find
Oh,
key
sure.
decision makers,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So I would start there. And then I would also leverage my existing network because my dad is a doctor. I have aunts and uncles who work in the healthcare industry. They may also have connections for me, but I can also talk to them to get a better understanding of how in general certain medical providers or agencies or companies may operate in terms of their education. So maybe for example, county hospitals typically do their training programs X, Y, and Z way versus state hospitals typically do their education through this way, right? Versus urgent care typically does X, Y, and Z, right? So I can get a better sense of the lay of the land, our competition, and what the current market norms and strategies are. Then from there, I would want to prioritize because obviously there's going to be tons of customers I can cold call, but
Yeah.
I like to be efficient with my time. And so
Hmm.
if I'm prioritizing, besides just on potential dollar value, which would be easy, right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, I would also focus on, and then what you mentioned was likelihood of adoption. But
Yeah.
instead of, but you know, I don't want to call all the customers first just to figure out which has the highest likelihood of adoption.
Mhm.
So
No.
I am brand new here. So maybe I can talk to some of my other account executives
Mhm.
and see, historically, does CVS typically tend to have a high conversion rate versus like state
Yeah.
hospitals
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
like, smaller pharmacies like Walgreens. I would talk to some of my colleagues and get a better sense of where would my highest likelihood of conversion be because I don't have any existing knowledge in this
Okay.
industry, right? And
All
then from there, I would prioritize based on dollar value as well as likelihood to convert,
right.
right? Or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So get some more information about how they've been doing it and what works for the prioritization of their accounts.
Yep,
Okay,
yep,
very
yep.
good. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm basically saying exactly what you did, but just a little bit condensed down
Order.
with a little bit more like business jargon to it
Okay.
and a little bit
Sure.
more structure, right? So
Okay. Yep.
so you can see like I'm going step by step by step by step, right?
Mhm.
Now,
Yep.
as opposed to all your ideas are good, but you
Yeah.
don't want to jump around too much, right?
Okay. Yep. Nope. It's perfect.
All right, cool. So let's do one last one, and this is one we always do for all of our sales positions. So Karen, imagine we hired you here at Stepful, and you're doing a cold call. So pretend you are calling me as one of your newest customers. There's no information about me in your CRM system. You just have my phone number. So pretend you are calling me for the first time, trying to inform me or pitch me our services.
Okay. So when I'm calling to in when I'm calling someone for the first time, seldom will an unfamiliar phone number receive a, an answer. It won't pick it up. It may even come up as potential spam. I hope that there's software not that makes that not so. So it would ultimately you end up being that I leave a message.
Well, let's
And
just pretend I pick up.
they pick up. Okay. They pick up. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you? Um, I am calling from a company called Stepful. Have you heard of Stepful?
No, I
No,
have not.
you have not heard of Stepful. It is AI education for your students, and it's a brand new company. Um, I was wondering, I have some questions for you. Do you have a moment? It'll be quick. I just want to get some information. Do you have a moment?
I mean, I'm pretty busy today. This
Okay.
sounds like you're trying to sell me something. Are you trying to sell me something right now?
Of course I am. No, I am actually trying to get you something more efficient so that you can educate your CNAs and your pharmacy techs and to better themselves and your community as well. We have one of the top graduate levels for the CNAs and the pharm techs. And would that be something that you might be interested in learning more about?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, what I'd like to do is set up time to speak more to you. Are you available on Thursday or Friday?
Oh, I'm pretty busy this week.
Okay, so I will be, I will call you on Monday. Does Monday morning work? Are you busy on Monday morning? Might be busy.
Yes, I'm also busy on Monday. Maybe
Uh,
can you just send me like a summary through email of like
sure,
what it is that you're
I'd be
offering?
happy to send you a summary through email. But next week I'm also going to be at the hospital visiting a family member. I would love to meet you so I can introduce myself, and that won't take long at all. So if I will come by to say hello and in person, and I can bring you some more materials and talk a little bit more. How does that sound?
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you're already going to be here, that sounds
Oh,
good.
yes, yes. And I would love to meet you as well. Thank you
Okay,
very much. I will
okay,
put you
sounds
in.
good.
All right.
All right, cool. So for this one, obviously, we tested a few different objections, right? Number one is like
Right.
the I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So trying to re-engage me, keep me on the call a little bit longer.
Mhm.
The second objection was, oh, I'm too busy, right? And then so you tried to reschedule for the following week. And then the third objection that I gave you was, oh, I don't really want to talk or meet in person. I just want you to email me stuff. And we all know once someone defers to email, they're just trying to get you off the phone and they're not going to actually read anything. So how do you actually handle all three of these objections? So the first one was great, right? Is keeping me interested, re-engaging me when I'm trying to get you off the phone, right? And I also came across very defensive. I was like, oh, this sounds like you're selling me something. I don't want to be sold anything right now. I'm very busy. So
Mhm.
then there you have to educate a little bit, right? Which you
Yeah.
did, telling me that, we're the number one named ed tech company in the US by Times. We have the
Mhm.
highest graduation rate for CNAs. Obviously, you would point out something that's relevant
Oh,
for me as
sure.
a customer
Yeah.
because you've done your
Yeah.
research before you called me,
Yeah.
right? And then that kept me on the phone a little bit longer. And then I tried to push this, right? I said, oh, actually, I'm really busy. So then you just try to accommodate me at best for my schedule. And then I give you the next objection, which was just trying to get you off the phone and email. So instead, you countered
Yeah.
by saying, oh, actually, I can deliver things in person,
Mhm.
and then I can walk you through all of our benefits directly face to face. So very good job. For any of you who are going to be doing interviews, you can 100% expect to do a mock cold call with one of your interviewers at least once, sometimes twice. So just be prepared for all of these types of objections.
Yes, I think that I've studied SIPFL and I ultimately would love to speak with them. The the other objection I would have said, we serve underserved communities with education better than anyone else because of our our economically sound financial model. Um, and that also always catches someone's ear when you can say that you do a great job, but you're still not going to be super expensive. So
hmm
I would have added that in as far as keeping her interested.
Yep, yep, of course, of course. And then also make sure that you are trying to probe a little bit in terms
Yeah.
of if I'm the right decision maker.
Oh,
Um,
sure. Yes.
right. So
Hmm.
don't forget about that as well. Like it is great to continue to get time with me, keep me on the phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you should also ask a little bit of questions on your end as well, right? To
Yeah.
make sure that
Mhm.
this is going to be a good use of your time. Because
Sure.
maybe I'm just the admin or the administrator, and I
Oh,
actually don't
sure.
control any of the education, etc. So
Mhm.
also don't be afraid to probe a little bit once you've re-engaged me and kept me on the phone.
Yes.
All right,
I'll do
awesome.
that.
Everyone, let's give Karen a huge round of applause. This was great, amazing job.
Thank you so much. It
Of
was a great experience. Very, very helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone wants to volunteer, contact Albert or I. And then we do have our YouTube channels. Albert has his as well, which with previous mock interviews. So if you wanted to see like data analyst roles that we've done or other sales roles, please check out the Albert's List YouTube channel.
And I think we're going to probably be doing another mock interview with Saeed next week from the
Mhm.
webinar chat here. So
Mhm.
he'll be doing one on, I think, he'll be an account development rep. So I think we're going to continue the sales theme
Okay.
next Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Oh, good.
But Karen, great work. Sales is the lifeblood of every single company. So, I
Mhm.
think as long as you do everything that Corey tells you to do, you'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's been great. Yes, very helpful, and I thank you very much.
Wonderful. Awesome.
One
Yes.
last, what do you know anybody at Stepful, by the way?
I've never heard of this company until today.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but if you're looking for something on the West Coast,
Yeah.
I'm definitely sure I can help you there
Oh,
with some organizations. So yeah,
okay. Well, that's great. Are they are they remote?
that I do not know. That's
Okay.
my company
If
basis.
if you could share that with me, it would be wonderful. I'd love to
Yeah,
see.
we'll
Yep.
connect on LinkedIn afterwards, and you can
Fantastic. Yeah,
uh
that's helpful.
yeah. So yeah,
Great.
cool,
All right. Thank
awesome,
you.
awesome.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. All right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you everybody for watching. We've got many more events here on Zoom and maybe some in person upcoming in the next few months. So watch out for your email for more promotions, and we will see you all soon. Thanks you all. Have a great Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.